Hello everyone and welcome. I know this video is probably going to upset a few people. I know that many of you will get tempted to start a Mac versus PC war down in the comments. This is not the point. Please don't do it. Hear me out. After using Windows and PC for over 20 years, 1 year ago, I switched to the Mac for my main daily driver for pretty much everything. Music production, mixing, mastering, sound design, video editing, admin. I do pretty much everything on the Mac right now. And many of you, and I mean many of you, ask me, how has it been? Is it better? Was it worth it? Have I stopped using Windows completely? In this video, I'm going to answer all these questions and I'm going to give you my honest experience after using macOS for over a year. I've always been using both platforms, so I've been using PC as my main machine for music production, for mixing, for mastering, and I was using MacBook Pros as laptops for my video editing, and when I'm doing workshops, masterclasses all over the world, I've always been using MacBook Pros. But combining these frustrations with Windows with the new Apple Silicon M1 MacBook Pro that I bought about 2 years ago, that became very clear to me that I would have to look into the Mac. And the reason was, when I bought my M1 MacBook Pro, and by the way, I say I bought it because many people, when I made that video, went down in the comments and said, oh, Apple is sponsoring you, they send you the MacBook Pro for free, that's why you say that. And I have to say it straight away, this video is not sponsored by Apple. Number one, I would always disclose it if a video was sponsored. Number two, I wish I was sponsored by Apple and I wish they send me their computers for free. Trust me, I spent a lot of money on these machines. I didn't get a single dollar discount for anything that Apple makes, so this is just me sharing my experience. I have nothing to gain if you buy Apple computers. With this out of the way, after trying the MacBook Pro M1, it was very clear to me that it was slaughtering my big PC. The performance was just so good. No problems with DPC latency spikes, no issues with drivers, no conflicts. All my Thunderbolt devices were always detected. I have 8 SSDs plugged into it with a USB-C cable and it always works. The same exact things on my PC sometimes would work, sometimes they wouldn't work. Sometimes I would just turn on the PC and everything would disappear. Who knows why? I would restart it again and they were all back. And by the way, just so you know, I'm a power user when it comes to PCs. I know how to do all my registry hacks. I used to build PCs from scratch, so I'm not a rookie when it comes to PCs. I've been doing PC maintenance for studios back in the day, so I'm very comfortable in doing troubleshooting. So after seeing this amazing performance on the Apple Silicon M1 MacBook Pro, and when I saw how well Cubase works, Cubase runs like the wind on these new machines, the M1s, the M2s, the M3s, I started using this MacBook Pro as my main computer. So I disconnected everything from my PC, I connected everything to the MacBook Pro, and I realized that even on a laptop, I get better performance, much better performance than on a huge PC, with the added benefit that it didn't get hot, there was no noise from the fans, and guess what? It also runs Final Cut Pro, which is my favorite editor when it comes to YouTube editing. I have DaVinci Resolve, I've bought it, I bought the full version, but still I feel that Final Cut Pro is the best NLE for YouTube editing, and all the videos that you see on my channel are edited 95% of the times on Final Cut Pro. Because I'm running a studio here and I also run a video production company, I decided to invest in a Mac Studio M2 Ultra, completely maxed out. And for this, I went all in. I went for the highest amount of RAM possible. Many of you ask me what are my specs, so my specs are 192 gigabytes of RAM. I have the 24-core CPU, and I actually went for the highest SSD available, that was the 8 terabytes, because yes, they're super expensive and Apple is really milking that cow, but they are extremely fast SSDs. The performance is unreal. So since then, the Mac Studio M2 Ultra has been my main computer where I do all my videos, where I do all my mixing, all my mastering, all my productions, all my video editing. Everything happens in this tiny box. So how has it been? First of all, performance. It's just sublime. This is by far the best computer I've ever used in terms of performance bump compared to the previous one that I had. Every time I used to upgrade my PCs, I would get a 20-30% of performance boost. This is a completely different game. We're talking, I'm doing production, mixing, mastering in one project, and I'm working on 64 samples with my audio interface, and I don't have to raise it. The only time I have to raise it to sometimes, I don't know, know 512 is when I have over 300 channels in a project and I'm doing oversampling with 3 or 4 limiters because I layer them, and this is the only time where it kind of chokes. The second amazing thing is this thing never gets hot. It's slightly warm to the touch sometimes when I do 3D rendering in Apple Motion or Final Cut Pro or DaVinci. DaVinci is actually consuming a lot of resources, but to be honest with you, I've never heard the fan. It's always super quiet. It's like it's not even on. So for me, this is huge because when I wanted to do the same thing with a PC, I had to really plan ahead, get all the big fans, buy specific cases, and so on and so forth. And even so, sometimes you could still hear the fans. The other thing is I was able to get up and running super fast. I connected all my peripherals. Granted, I had to buy some Thunderbolt hubs, but I had to do this on the PC anyway. I pretty much plugged everything in, my MIDI keyboards, my controllers, my peripherals, all the things that I use every single day, and I never had a single issue with it. Not a driver conflict, not something that wouldn't show up. Everything worked perfectly. And for me, that was another reason why I made the decision to switch from Windows to Mac OS. Just because right now, for my needs and the way I see it, Mac OS is a much better operating system for music production and for creative work. I really don't like what I see on Windows 11. When I moved to the Mac, I completely wiped my PC and I installed Windows 11 from scratch. And if you've been following me on Instagram, you must have seen I was posting stories throughout the whole process. It took me 24 hours, I'm not even kidding, 24 hours to install Windows 11, countless restarts. My GPU drivers would be installed, reinstalled, then the graphics would go all blurry, I would get a 640 by 480 resolution, and the PC was restarting, I don't know, like 20 times until it got everything right. I don't want this. I don't have time for this. And I've talked to Windows 11 users and some of them have told me, oh, for me it was painless. But I've talked to other ones and they told me the exact same thing. They had to go through a series of reboots and restarts and re-downloads and update procedures just to be able to get up and running. Honestly, I don't have this time. I'm really busy. So for me, when the Mac Studio M2 Ultra arrived at my doorstep, I opened the box, I plugged it in, installed Cubase, I could immediately make music. The other thing that I talked on my previous video, and I don't think that PC users will ever understand, is AirDrop. AirDrop is one of the most amazing things on the Mac. The fact that I can receive a mix in my studio and then I can airdrop it to my assistant in the next room and they can start working with it straight away, or I shoot a video and I can airdrop it to my video editor and we can start collaborating straight away without even worrying about servers, without worrying about having the file in a specific place. If I want to take a photo of my gear because I'm doing analog mastering and I want to drop it into my Cubase folder, I just take the photo, airdrop it, it's there. I don't have to email it to myself and do all these random things that take so much time. The other amazing thing is that if you're working with multiple computers like I do, this functionality becomes even more enjoyable because what I can do is I can bring my MacBook Pro right here next to my Mac Studio Ultra, and then if I take a file from my Mac Studio Ultra and drag it to my MacBook Pro, it's going to pop into my MacBook Pro screen, and then I can copy a file just like this without even having to copy and paste, without even airdropping the file. I do this all the time. This is impossible to do on a PC. There's no way you can do this. You have to have a server, you have to use something like Dropbox. It's cumbersome, it's slow, and when you have so much work like I do to pump out every day, all this adds up, it slows you down. Look at this, guys. You can even turn your iPad into a second monitor for your DAW. Look at this. And that's actually a pretty old iPad that I'm using here. The other thing that's amazing, and I use it all the time on my daily driver, is Time Machine. I always have it in the background, backing up my system. There's been quite a few times where I had to go to a previous version of a specific file. I just launched Time Machine, I went to the previous version of the file, and I recovered it straight away, copied and pasted it. So useful. Again, something you cannot do with Windows, unless Windows 11 spy every move you make, and they get a snapshot every 3 3 seconds. And how is this going to affect audio performance? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. Another thing that many people rave about when it comes to PCs is that they're upgradable and that you cannot upgrade an Apple computer. And that's true. But from my experience, after working as a professional in the music industry for 20 years, I've never upgraded a PC because I always get the stuff that I need when I need it. The only thing that I've upgraded was maybe the RAM at some points, and you have to be very careful with RAM sticks mixing because sometimes you can get all sorts of even blue screens of death. And the second thing that I've upgraded once was a graphics card. That's it. I never upgraded the CPU. If you upgrade the motherboard, then it's like getting a new computer pretty much. So quite honestly, this whole upgrade thing, if you're a professional like I am, I don't see the point. It's not a selling factor for me. The good thing with Apple machines is that if you feel that you've outgrown it, guess what? It retains its value. You can sell it. I've sold MacBook Pros in the past and I've made a good chunk of money from a 3-4-year-old computer or even 5-year-old sometimes. This is something that you will never be able to do with a PC. I have my i9 PC right next to me. I would love to sell it, but it's almost impossible. Nobody will take it for a price that makes sense, and I can only sell it for parts. That's just a hassle, and I'm not gonna do this. The other thing with Apple that many people miss is that their service is amazing. Every time I had a problem with a MacBook Pro, even if it was out of warranty, most of the times they fix it free of charge. Yes, they make it hard to repair things for third party, which I don't think is cool, but at the same time, if you go and ask for help, 9 out of 10 times they will help you out. Just to give you an idea, my Apple Watch battery died after 4 years of use. This is an old watch. I took it to Apple, and for, I don't know, 80 quid, they gave me a new Apple Watch. I've taken my MacBook Pros for repair many times, and I only have good things to say about Apple support. I don't say that they're always perfect, because I know that some people might have different experiences, but this is my experience, and I make really heavy use of my laptops, so that's what I have to share. So now I'm going to answer the question that you asked me on Instagram, on YouTube. Dom, should I switch to the Mac? And if I had to give you my honest answer for this one is yes. At this specific time, I would suggest to go for a Mac computer, even an affordable one. Even the MacBook Airs that are super affordable, I've seen their performance and they perform incredibly well with Cubase. And quite honestly, even with the Mac Mini, you can get amazing performance for a really low cost. Now the Mac Mini is not so expensive anymore. You can get into the Apple world without spending 5 or 6K. You can go for $1,200 and you have a really powerful computer. But of course, it depends on your needs. In my opinion, the sweet spot are the MacBook Pros because they give you desktop performance with the form factor of a laptop. But of course, PCs are always going to be more affordable. They're always going to be cheaper. So what I would say is you need to evaluate your needs. If you're a professional like I am, for me, it makes sense to go Mac. Because anyway, this is a tool for your job. It's something that will save you time, guaranteed. You won't have to deal with problems. You won't have to deal with DPC spikes. You won't have to deal with optimizations. You won't have to deal with Windows 11, and who knows what's coming with Windows 11. There are many things that are happening right now, and I really hope that Apple doesn't follow the same path. In my opinion, it's a better operating system overall, and you have to see it as an investment. If you're running a business, you can also reduce your taxes because that's an investment for your business. I predict that this computer will last me 4 to 5 years easily. But at the same time, if you want to get the cheapest baseline computer, of course, go for a PC. Or if you're going to get a PC, what I suggest is get it from a reputable company that makes DAW PCs. They build PCs specifically for DAW, so you don't have to deal with all these issues. The ones I suggest always is scan.co.uk. They make amazing PCs. I've been using their PCs for ages, and they are the best thing you can get when it comes to PCs and Windows. And by the way, I still have my PC. I'm still using PC. I use it for specific tasks, but I use it like 0.5% of the time right now. So to recap, I'm a super happy macOS user. This has been the best choice I could have made for my workflow, my own personal workflow at least. And for the foreseeable future, I don't see me switching back to Windows unless something changes dramatically. And if it does, I'm always open to go back to Windows. I'm not an Apple fanboy or a Microsoft fanboy. I just want to get my job done, and whatever system makes it easier for me gets my vote. I hope this answers your questions. If you want to support the channel, check out my courses down below. I've made 3 mastering courses, one about mastering in Cubase, one about mastering in the box, and one about analog mastering. Or you can check out my Modern 80s Kit Max, use the join button or the thanks button, or watch one of these videos right here. Thank you so much for watching, my friends, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.